Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Welcome back to Worth Guitars. It's been a little bit since I've done a video. I've been crazy busy trying to take care of life stuff. The month of September was a crazy month to say the least. I had to have some skin cancer removed for my arm right here. As you can see, it still isn't 100% healed up because I've been messing with it. But so come to find out, I'm one of the few people in the world who reject internal stitches. My body was like, nope, not doing that, and started pushing them back out. That was not a pretty thing to see. As you can imagine, and it got infected, and not good. So that kind of took up a little bit of my time, and then I tried to do a few side jobs, make a little extra money. But I did manage to get some cool guitar stuff started, and so I want to get back into some videos, and we can get back into some builds and things like that. First, let me show you this. Hold on. This turned out pretty cool looking. I'm liking the way this looks. What do you think? That's pretty tough, huh? Single coil, double stack single coil, Seymour Duncan double stack that I can split the phase off of, so you can still get that kind of woman sound that you like in that position there. And of course we got a JB going in here, because why would you use any other pickup other than a Seymour Duncan JB in your bridge position? My humble opinion. Sapele, maple neck, got a little mahogany in the scarf joint there, and the wolf on 12. This is going to be very cool. I'm going to work on this today. Obviously, I need to put the tuning key holes in. Then I can mount the bridge, and then I can glue on the neck. This will be a glued on or set neck. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to hearing this one ring. I'll be right back. Hold on. That's fun. And then I started on another acoustic. This is going to be an OM-14. This is something that's I've been waiting to do for many years, many years. I've always wanted to build guitars, and of course I do build guitars, but I wanted to wait until my skills got to where I could trust them enough to attempt building a guitar out of this wood. I've had this wood for over 40 years. A very good old friend of mine, Myron Curtis, who was kind of like a grandfather that I never had kind of guy. He was part owner of a company that I worked at, and I became friends with him because he was really into woodworking, and I was also, and he was a wood turner. He turned bowls and things like that, man, an amazing wood turner. He could do magic on a wood lathe. Anyway, built some doors for him, and he gave me some Brazilian rosewood in payment. Brazilian rosewood. This is what's left over from a batch that went to Martin Guitars 40 years ago. He kept a few pieces for himself, some smaller pieces, and some pieces that had a defect here or there. And I was happy to get it, but I was afraid of it because I didn't want to just hack it up and mess the thing up. So, of course, the years go by, and you wait until you think you have your act together enough to do something, and I finally got to the point where I think I could do that. I've got a couple of acoustics under my belt. I kind of know what to expect, and so I decided to go ahead and break out the Brazilian Rosewood and do an OM-14, which I've always wanted to build. So here we are so far. These are the sides I have in here, as you can tell, obviously. I'll get this out of here and show it to you when I get to a point where I can. Right now, I'm just going to leave it in. I'm about to do the kerfed lining inside here, and I was getting ready to use my kerfed lining jig, which is this contraption here, and I realized that a block had broken off, which is the stop that keeps you from going too far on the bandsaw. And I'm glad I saw that, because I would have just cut right through the thing, and that's not good. We didn't want to do that. But let me show you what I've done so far on this for the backs and the top. Hold on one second. I mean the back. Hold on one second there. Okay, So here's where we are on the back. So this wood wasn't quite wide enough to do the whole OM-14 width. So I knew that I needed to put a center lamination in there just to bump it out a little bit. But I wasn't happy with, even then I wasn't happy with there was some weird like sapwood right down the center of the book match that just bugged me, and I didn't want to leave it in there. So what I did was I took some of the wood from up here on this and then laminated. I glued it on the edge down here, and it matches up real well. You can probably see it a little bit because I haven't finished sanding it completely. It's right there, those little wings. And what I will do is, when I get ready to glue this down, I'll just put some little diamonds on there, some spruce diamonds to reinforce that area. Of course, bracing goes across there anyway, but still, I'll put a couple little squares on there just to make sure they doesn't separate somewhere in the future, because this is going to be a family heirloom. I will not be selling this guitar. This guitar will be a personal family guitar that I hope my children will play into the future. Okay, so that's where we're at. And what I did was I just did this on the CNC. This little quasar is what I call this, a quasar, because I didn't know what else to call it. So I decided quasar would be its name. Okay, and I'm going to inlay very small right in here, IW, which is my father's initials, IW. All right, so by the way, my father's middle name is Worth. Okay, but let's get back to building guitars. So this is the back. And hold on, did I say those pieces? Hang on. Okay, so I'll show you what I did. I just went over to the CNC. I just wrote a simple program for the CNC and cut that out. Okay, that's the center piece. This is Madagascar ebony, or not Madagascar, Macassar ebony, right there in the center. And then I just took this cool looking piece of flame maple that I had laying around, because, you know, weirdo wood people just save every scrap of wood that they have because we cannot throw things away. And then I cut the two little lamination pieces out of that over there on the CNC with a little 1/8" blade bit. And then I obviously cut the opposite of that on here, and then just put it in the clamping jig that I have and clamped it together real well. And we have a beautiful back for, man, this thing rings like, it's crazy how good it sounds so far. So that's where I'm at. That's the back. And I save these little pieces because, again, I'm a woodworker, and woodworkers cannot throw pretty little pieces of wood in the trash. It's against our nature, right? And then, of course, I have the, sorry to keep moving out of the camera thing, but I don't have someone to follow me around. So, and of course, I have a Sitka spruce top, which sounds amazing already also. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do with the rosette. I keep experimenting with different things, but I believe I'm going to do some of the Brazilian rosewood because it's so precious to me. Brazilian rosewood is a precious wood anyway. I think I'll do a ring of Brazilian rosewood with the black, white, black binding, the .040 width, the very thin stuff, and maybe a ring of the same abalone that I used on that T-style guitar over there with the shield. And I think that would be pretty. So that's still bouncing around in my head. So I've always got 3 or 4 things bouncing around in there, design ideas that I'm trying to work through. That's what this guitar was here. This guitar started out as just a plain T-style guitar made out of sapele, and I just hated the way that it looked for some reason. I had a HSH setup, humbucker single coil humbucker setup on here, and the more I looked at it, the more I just didn't like it. I didn't like the way it looked, and it just looked plain to me, and I didn't want to paint it, and I didn't want to do another sunburst because I'm getting kind of bored with sunbursts. So I've done about 20 of them. It seemed like every guitar I've done in the past year has been 2 years. I had a sunburst on it. I didn't want to do another one. So I kept thinking, well, how am I going to get rid of the HSH? And I thought, well, I would probably just do a pick guard, you know, and I couldn't come up with a good pick guard design for it. I wanted to do something that looked different and was unique and special, because if you're going to take the time to do it, why not try to do something unique and special once in a while, right? And so just goofing around on the computer drawing program, I just said, well, what if I just do a shield in the pick guard material? And then I did that, and I was like, well, that's kind of hip. I like that, but what if I just inlaid a different type of wood? That way, I can completely get rid of the HSH pickup setup and do the single coil humbucker, which I really want to do because I think that's a great sounding setup. And I had this really pretty piece of maple, this red leaf maple flame. And I had just bought this abalone inlay. And I was like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. So I just went for it and did it. And rounding over these really super smooth and making sure everything's really rounded over really well. And this thing just feels super comfortable already. And I'm really looking forward to hearing this thing. Okay, but anyway, let me put this up. Okay, so there we are. That's where we are at the moment in the builds at Worth Guitars. I also have a very cool 7-string Nomad style guitar coming up, Swamp Ash. That's going to be pretty hip. I'm looking for the right piece of wood. I keep looking. I also need some nice torrefied maple for the neck. And now I can find torrefied maple to do Strat style or T style necks, you know, the flat with the little scoop on the headstock thing. But I want to do the angled headstock. And so I'm looking around. If you guys got any ideas on that, let me know. All right. And I got a couple of necks I need to do for a friend of mine. And I got to stop messing with that. All right. It's messing with my mind. When you have something like that, it really messes with your mind. If you haven't yet, I hope you never do. It opens up a whole new realm of thought in your mind when someone says, well, yeah, you got some cancer there you need to cut out. You're like, okay. I really don't want to cut anything out. I kind of like what I have left. But at any rate, let's get on with guitars. Right? That's what we should be doing. So what I want to do is I want to get this little jig set up. First thing I got to do is sand that there, and then we can glue this block on, my little stop block. And then we'll go over to the bandsaw and cut some binding. It's not binding, lining, kerf lining. But this block broke off, and I don't know where it went. So I got to do a new one. And I just had it on there with CA glue. Luckily, I have a line on there to work to. That's where I want it, right there. I need to darken that line back up so I can see it. That'll work. Then we can get to work. I'll show you how this little jig works. I think I did a video of it once, but it's probably buried in the video vault somewhere. So let's get this on. I'm just going to use some CA glue here. That's all we need. About that much. Spread that out a little. A little accelerator on here. Make this stick quick. And that's where we want it, right there. A little human clamping action. And that's got a grip on it. Okay, that's easy enough. Now, I hesitate to put a screw in it because I may want to change it someday. But I probably should. Let me do that now. And that way, we don't have to worry about it breaking off again. The sky is burning. I believe my soul's on fire. Now all I need is a screw. I got one here because I got one out earlier. Here it is right here. All right. Okay, got that done. Okay, so this goes on the bandsaw. Obviously, this is in the track. This little spring mechanism falls into the kerf. Every time you make a kerf, you push it forward, it clicks into the kerf of the cut you just made. And you just keep repeating that, and you can create kerfed lining. Let me take you over to the bandsaw and show you what I mean. All right, hold on. Okay, you see where it's cutting in? Right there? Okay, this, I can adjust the depth by just doing that. Okay, so if I have it here, that means I'm going in full depth. Right? Here, I'll demonstrate. Hold on. Okay, and that's how deep we want to go in. About halfway through, a little over halfway through. All right, and then we just need to keep doing that over and over and over again to create that. Then I round over the edge, okay? Because I like to put this side out instead of this side. Because I think this is cleaner and cooler looking. Okay? So that's it. Hang on. I'm going to do a few more cuts. Okay, so that's how that works. And as you can see, that makes it nice and flexible. Now, it's still a little tough to bend in some of the tighter areas, especially on the OM, because it has pretty tight bends right here and in here. And because I want this to be the outside, I have to put it in the bending machine and bend it, pre-bend it anyway. But that makes it a lot easier to bend. If you tried to bend something this thick without kerfing it, you would have some issues. Of course, you could laminate your binding. Some people do that, but I find this works pretty well if I put it and pre-bend it. So that's what we're going to do after I finish making a few more of these. But a good way to keep yourself from making more cuts than you need to is, and a good way to find out exactly how long of a piece that you need is, obviously I only need a piece that goes from here to here, is to put a piece of tape in there. I'll show you what I mean. If you put a piece of tape in there, it'll tell you exactly. It's a great way to measure odd-shaped things. Let me move you over closer. Put a piece of tape on an odd-shaped object to figure out how big it is, like this. Take a piece of tape, start it where you want to. Of course, you got to make it stick. It's got dust on it from sitting in the shop. Try not to be sloppy about it. I'm trying to do this with one hand. Hold up the other end. It doesn't have to be perfect, obviously, but you want to get it as accurate as you can. And come on around like that. And then come up like this. Okay, so I'm at this block. And I'm at this block. Take that off. Okay, now you can also mark on here where your waist is. That gives you an accurate idea where your waist is on your guitar. The center of your waist. Waist as in your waist, not waste as in throw it away. Okay, so then you can take this back off. That is exactly how long your binding needs to be. Right? So I've already made this a little longer than it needs to be. And I'll give myself an inch or two on the ends. All right, now I know that I only need my binding to be that long. There's no sense in going through all the trouble of cutting those curves if I don't need them. Does that make sense, guys? Yeah? And there's my waist. When I go to put it in the bending machine, I know that's where I want it to be. So all this lines up when I take it back out. All right? That makes sense? So now I can go over there, and I know that I don't need to go past that mark right there. My Sharpie's starting to die on me. Okay? And I'll save this because I'm going to need it. Just put that right there for the time being. And I'm going to go over there and continue with the arduous task of making these curves. And when I get that done, I'm going to come over here and put it in the bending machine. And then we'll have our binding bent. And I think that's probably as long as I can do this video because you'll get bored and stop watching it. You may have already. I may be talking to an empty screen. Okay. Hang on. I'll be right back. Oh, by the way, thanks for tuning in and watching. All right. Good morning to you. It's Sunday morning here. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, I'm going to go and cut some more curves. I'm going to put my earplugs in. I'm going to listen to my book. Listening to a great series of books called The Remaining by DJ Mole. I highly recommend it. Go to audible.com and check them out. No, I'm not getting paid by audible.com. I just like books, and this one kicks ass. All right, I'll be right back.